In this video, we'll go through the answers for the 10.1 to 10.3 test review. The first question is fill in the blank on EdSite. So you will need to find your answers and then type those answers in. We are solving by factoring. When we solve by factoring, we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us the 12. Those same numbers need to add up to the middle number 7. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, I think 3 times 4 gives us 12, 3 plus 4 gives us 7. The factored form is x plus 3, x plus 4 equals 0. If x plus 3 has to equal 0, x is going to be negative 3. If x plus 4 has to equal 0, x is going to be negative 4. So our two answers are negative 3 and negative 4. There's two blanks on EdSite. You type in negative 3 into one of them, negative 4 into the other one. When you're typing in negatives, use the minus button or the dash button for minus. No spaces. Just type in that minus button and then 3, no spaces, no funny business. Just type it in. Number 2. Same type of problem. We are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us negative 21 and add up to 4. 1 times 21 is not going to work. 3 times 7 could work if it was a negative 3. Negative 3 plus 7 is positive 4. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. So x minus 3, x plus 7 equals 0. Our solutions are then positive 3, that's weird, and negative 7. Number 3, solve the quadratic equation using square roots. You want to get whatever is raised to an exponent by itself. So in number 3, we would start by adding 16 to both sides. So x minus 3 squared equals positive 16. Then, to undo the square, we square root both sides. And when you put a square root in, you have to put a plus minus in front of it. So x minus 3 equals positive or negative. Square root of 16 is 4. Add 3 to both sides. We have 3 plus or minus 4. Plus minus 4 is two separate numbers. That means positive 4 and negative 4. So really, this thing is 3 plus 4 and 3 minus 4. So 3 plus 4 is 7. That's one of our solutions. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. That's our other solution. Numbers 1 through 3 on EdSite are fill in the blank. So you type the numbers in. Starting with number 4, it's entirely multiple choice. So you will have the answers on there to pick from. Number 4, we need to get the thing that's raised to the exponent by itself. Start with addition or subtraction. So we're going to add 9 to both sides to get 2 times the quantity of x minus 4 squared equals 54. Then we divide by 2. You cannot distribute. No distribution. No distribute. That's a wonky looking exclamation point. We divide both sides by 2 to get x minus 4 squared equals 27. Then we square root both sides. Don't forget about your plus minus. Over on the side, I would take the square root of 27 and think about how can I split that up. Now remember, you want to use your perfect squares. So you want to use 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, etc. I know I can do 27 divided by 9, and 9 is a perfect square. The square root of 9 is 3. So the square root of 27 is really 3 times the square root of 3. There's a plus minus in front of it, and we have x minus 4 on the other side. Add 4 to both sides, and stick the 4 in front of the plus minus and that is your final answer. Now technically this means 4 plus 3 square root of 3 and 4 minus 3 square root of 3. But that one's multiple choice, so you'd be able to pick that answer out of the lineup. Number 5 is another factoring problem, and really you treat it the same as you did with numbers 1 and 2. So we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 36. Those same numbers need to add up to negative 13. There's a lot of options for 36. 1 times 36, 2 times 18, that's not going to work. 3 times 12, it's not going to work. 4 times 9, if we had negative 4 and negative 9, that would add up to negative 13. Negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. The difference between number 5 and numbers 1 and 2 is the fact that it's x to the 4th. So when we put these numbers into our factored form, it's x squared minus 4 and x squared minus 9. X squared times x squared would give us x to the 4th. X squared times negative 9, negative 4 times x squared, those would add together to give us that middle term. So it has to be that x squared in the factored form. Some of you recognize these as difference of two squares and you can further factor them. But the easier method is x squared minus 4 equals 0. Solve that one. X squared minus 9 equals 0. Solve that one. So on x squared minus 4, add 4 to both sides and then square root. Don't forget when you square root there has to be a plus minus. So one of our answers is positive or negative 2. The square root of 4 is 2. Add 9 on both sides and square root. The square root of 9 is 3. Don't forget about your plus minus. There are actually 4 solutions here. Positive 2, negative 2, positive 3, negative 3. This one is multiple choice, but it's a multiple select. It will say on EdSite, select all that apply. So you would select the plus minus 2 as one of your answers and the plus minus 3 as your other answer. Number 6, solve by completing the square. When you're solving by completing the square, you want to keep the first two terms, but then you want to have a blank. So I'm going to add 1 on both sides so I can get my x squared minus 4x by itself. To complete the square, you're looking for the number that 2 times that number gives you negative 4. So 2 times what is negative 4? That'd be negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. So what you add to both sides is the square of that number you found. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 squared is 4. That's what you're going to add to both sides. This then factors into x minus 2 squared, and on the right side we have 5. Now it's just like the problems like number 3 and 4 that we solved using square roots. Square root both sides. X minus 2 equals positive or negative square root of 5. Add 2 to both sides to get 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. And that's multiple choice, so you'll be able to select that answer. All right, number 7, the paper copy that you were given had this problem wrong, so correct your number 7 so that it says x squared plus 2x plus 4. It says using quadratic formula, and I think on EdSite I give you the quadratic formula, but it's also on the wall of the classroom. If you want me to write it on your paper during the test, I will. I'll try to get that on the test so you don't have to look for it. The quadratic formula is x equals the opposite of b, so negative 2. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, 2 squared, minus 4ac, 4 times 1 times 4, all over 2a. I'm going to plug just the stuff under the radical into my calculator, not the radical. Do not put the square root in your calculator. Just put 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. That gives me negative 12. So we have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 12, the whole thing divided by 2. We need to simplify the square root of negative 12. The square root of negative 12. Because there's a negative, there's definitely an I involved. Then think about positive 12. We can split that into 4 times 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So this thing is really 2i square root of 3. So what we have here is negative 2 plus or minus 2i square root of 3 over 2. Look at the whole number pieces, the negative 2, the 2 in front of the square root, and the 2 on the bottom. Can we divide negative 2, 2, and 2 by the same thing? We can divide all of them by 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 2 divided by 2 on the bottom is 1. So our final answer is simply negative 1 plus I square root of 3. Number 8. Before we do number 8, we need to get 0 on one side. So you're going to subtract 8 on both sides. So this looks like a problem that we can plug into the quadratic formula. X equals opposite of b, negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Again, just do the stuff underneath. I don't like that highlighter because it's too big. Just do the stuff underneath the radical. Do not put the square root into your calculator. 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 is positive 68. So we have negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 68 over 2. Off to the side, simplify the square root of 68. Now this one I found to be kind of hard. I think 4 is the only one that works. And when 4 works, I always try 16, but 16 doesn't work. So it splits into the square root of 4 times the square root of 17. So 2 square root of 17. Negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 17 over 2. The whole number pieces are negative 6, 2, and 2. We can divide all of those by 2. So negative 3 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 17 over 1. You don't need the over 1. Our answer is negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 17. Number 9 looks harder than it is. Basically, it tells you a height of 10 feet. You're going to put that in place of this h. So 10 equals negative 0.003x squared plus 1.19x plus 5.2. We can't plug this into quadratic formula until we have 0, so you need to subtract 10 on both sides. That will give us 0 equals negative 0.003 x squared plus 1.19x minus 4.8. We need to plug all of this into the quadratic formula. So your a value is negative 0.003, your b value is 1.19, and your c value is negative 4.8. I'm going to pause the video and plug that into the quadratic formula so I can make it fit in this video. Okay, so over here I plugged it into the quadratic formula, so you might want to pause the video and check to make sure you did that correctly. Then I did 1.19 squared minus 4 times blah, 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 and I got 1.3585. Here's how you plug this into your calculator. The first time you use the plus button, negative 1.19 plus the square root of 1.3585, hit enter, divided by negative 0.006, enter. Our first answer is about 4. Then you do this again using minus. I'm going to plug it in and show you what it looks like. So I'm going to pause and then I'll show you. So I use the minus button after the square root, hit enter, then divide. Our two answers are this, 390